guys, welcome to a new video for That Fat Vegan. Today I wanted to share with you guys the beginning of my addictive behavior, starting with my childhood, how I grew up, how these things sort of developed even before I knew what these things were. Family situations, there might be something that you could relate to, but I need to get this off my chest. And this is sort of where everything started. So I grew up, my mom, my dad, I have an older brother and an older sister. My sister was born with spina bifida. My brother was very introverted, and my mom worried about them a lot. So even though I was the baby of the family, I was always taking on way more responsibilities than either one of them, and kind of just felt a little left out at times. My dad was an alcoholic. There was a period of time when all he did was drink and sit down the stair, in the basement, and watch TV, and then he would sit upstairs in a recliner and drink. One Christmas, he fell into the Christmas tree. It was just a mess. So I was about 5 or 6 when I noticed that my dad's behavior would be weird when he would be in the garage drinking out of a paper bag. And I didn't know what alcohol was. I just knew that whatever was in there was bad. There were times when I would find it and I would tell my mom because I didn't like the way that he acted after he would drink it. And then they would get into this huge fight, and she would tell him that I found it. So then he would be upset with me, even though I'm a kid, And then there were times when she would tell me to go look for it, go look for his stuff and get rid of it when I'm 7 and 8, and times when I picked him up off the floor, times when I woke her up because she's an RN and worked nights, so she would sleep during the day. And times when I would come home because I had morning kindergarten, and I would come home and he would be drunk and he would be going to pick up my grandmother at work, and I would wake her up and say, don't let him go. He's been drinking, or he's acting goofy, whatever how I would put it then. And she wouldn't believe me. And there was a time that he fell into the glass coffee table and he was bleeding and he was all cut up, and she still didn't believe me. And later on in life, my grandmother would tell me that he would have beer in the car. He would be drinking, picking her up and taking her home. Now, she worked about 25 minutes away, so that was a pretty far drive, and that she would be really scared and nervous because he's drinking beer while he's driving her, which is ridiculous. So I had been exposed to that behavior for a long time, and for a long time I felt lonely, and I didn't have a dad, and my mom was always busy and sleeping and helping my sister and stuff, and I just felt really alone. When I got to be about 12 and 13, that's when I started drinking. I would drink screwdrivers. Sometimes a friend would sneak into their dad's liquor cabinet, or sometimes I would find my dad's stuff and we would drink it. But more me so than my friends at the time, which is so horrible because I'm 36 now, and I look at kids that are that age, and I'm wow, I was really screwed up. That's when I started cutting. That's when I started hanging out with a lot of boys. Always wanted attention from guys, no matter how bad that attention was. I didn't have sex with anybody, but I did mess around with people just because it was I knew that they wanted me to, and I wanted to be accepted, and that's why I don't often like to call people slutty or whores, you know what I mean? Because if you're an adult anyway and everything's consensual, I don't care what you're doing as long as you're safe. And if you're younger, there's usually a reason for that type of behavior and that way of acting out, so I don't try to be really harsh on women, especially. But I guess you could say I was slutty because I had all these guy friends, even though I didn't have sex until I was 16, and that was after being with my ex-boyfriend Jason, who is my best friend to this day, after we were together for almost a year. But in those times I can remember almost how, I think I had alcohol poisoning once, but I remember I drank almost a whole bottle of rum, and I was tiny then, And it was so bad. But I had all of these feelings about my dad and him not really being around, and about my mom, and my mom was is still very much like not like a tomboy, but she's not really into makeup and hair and all that kind of stuff. And I really felt like those were things I wanted to learn about, and that like my friends at school, their moms would do their hair, and then they eventually were allowed to wear like lipstick or something. And sometimes I'd go to school looking like a damn fool trying to put eyeliner on. It was just ridiculous. And so I think I had all of this resentment for that, and drinking like it does now just numbed those things. And I feel like because I was so young and I used alcohol in that way, getting like messed up. Sometimes I'd smoke weed too, but when I smoked weed, that's whenever I would start like cutting. It was very much a downer for me. And I remember like becoming totally straight edge after that for a while. So it was from like, I guess 14 until maybe 18 or something, or 15 to 18, where I was like really straight edge, and I didn't want to be around people smoking like weed. I didn't want to be around the drinking. There was one New Year's Eve where I had 2 beers, but like nothing insane, nothing like hardcore or anything like that. And I didn't even really enjoy it. So I felt like I was on this road to being okay. I started at, when I almost turned 16, that's when I started getting panic attacks. So bad so that, I could not open up my eyes. I would have these tension headaches. I couldn't sleep. I always felt like I was having a heart attack, having the chest pains. My arm would be numb, and I didn't know what was going on. Like, I literally woke up one morning like this, like that, and eventually I went to therapy, and that helped a lot. And I think that therapy is such a great way to just get things off your chest, learn more about yourself and your behaviors. And I felt like that did wonders for me until the sexual assault. And that is what I'm going to talk about in my next video. I did do a video on this on my other channel, but I want to go more into it and things that led up to it, things that happened afterwards. And it kind of did start this spiral again, slowly but surely, And so growing up, I just felt left out, like I felt lost, And in school, I had some friends, but I would get picked on like other people would. Sometimes I wouldn't, Sometimes I was friends with cool kids, but I'd hang out with people a lot older than me because they could get cigarettes or whatever. And I did start smoking cigarettes whenever I was 12. It just was this release. And I'm going to tell you something. When I drank all that rum that day, I'm in here, I was in, I think I was outside at first drinking it, but then I went in and I was on the couch and I was vomiting like uncontrollably for so long. And I'm sure that you could smell it. And my mom is a nurse. Never acted like there was any problem. Never asked if it was because I was drinking. Never offered or, suggested that maybe I get help. And I know that she was busy. I know that she loves me. But when you're that age, that matters. That means a lot. It's hurtful, and that damage at that age is really hard to overcome. And I feel like I'm still trying to overcome some of those things. My dad was not the nicest. He's hit me plenty of times, threatened me. It was a way for me to escape. So it was like that addiction started so early. And along with the drinking, I would eat like whatever was like around. I had 2 really good friends that lived by me. They both moved away. And so when I was young, like 8 or 9, I wouldn't have anybody to play with, so I'd just sit around and watch Garfield and Friends and eat nachos and all this stuff. And that filled a void. And mentally, that filled it to the point to where I still have issue with that when I'm feeling lonely lonely or when I'm feeling a little upset about something, like just wanting to sit there and eat and not think about it, because food can make you feel really, really good, you know? And so that is where it all started. And I know that the next video is going to be a little bit heavy, but it does have to do with my addiction and with eating. And that's what this channel is about. But the video after that will be much lighthearted. It will be a recipe. It'll be like a cooking video. So I will see you guys in the next one. And thank you for watching. Subscribe if you want to. Love and hugs. Bye.